We're talking back to school, and inland schools are opening their gates today, with the coastal schools opening their gates next week. But we've been so inspired by all this back to school talk that we've come up with a couple of very interesting back to school DIY decor ideas, and Dion Lawrence, our man, is here in studio. Dion, very nice to see you. Listen, so can you remember what it was like after the holidays going back to school? Were you excited? Were you anxious? What was it like for you?
I think there was a slight feeling of anxiousness, but I think I'm glad that I don't have to go back to those days again.
Now, this is what I want to ask you. What is the connection between decor for your home and kind of a back to school theme?
What we've got here today is, you'll look there on your left, we've got one of these old suitcases. So I had one that I had my toy cars in back in the day, and I think we might have been the last generation to have that. Great ideas. Line it with a black plastic bag, just place some pots or herbs in it, and it's an immediate eye catcher on a tabletop or in the kitchen. Another great idea is to do color blocking. So something as inexpensive as the pink rulers, buy a bunch of them, put them in a glass vase, and pop them somewhere in the home office to bring some colour to a dull corner.
I like that. This is a very easy idea. These rulers are fairly inexpensive as well. So great stuff. But you brought us a couple of items this morning. What exactly are we making?
So you'll see here behind me, I've got this growth chart. Now, if you remember, if your parents were anything like my parents, making marks against the kitchen door or against the wall somewhere, it's great and it's lovely to look back at those things and see how your child has grown over the years. But the problem is, should you move or repaint the wall, then you lose it. So this is a great way of making almost like a mobile growth chart. And what I've done here is to do it in the style of almost like a large-scale ruler.
Makes you realize how fast the time goes as well when you have kids. All right, cool. So before you know it, they'll be out of the house, but then you'll have this as a memory, which is great. How do we make it? What do we need?
So you'll see in front of me here, I've got a piece of pine plank, 144 millimeters wide, nice size to write on and everything. Okay. Then I've got some numbers here in front of me, drill bit and super glue, cutter and a permanent marker.
All right.
Now, where you want to start with this is actually doing your different increments. We are working on 3 centimeter increments, which is exactly the width of this ruler. So I'm going to ask you to start on that side.
All right.
And what's easy enough is I work with 3 centimeter lines.
Okay.
To give a nice consistent feel on the edge.
All right. And you just carry on doing this.
Exactly. So you carry on throughout.
All right.
What you'd like to do then, once you've marked it out, you'll take your permanent marker, and you can just go over those lines to make sure that they stay there.
All right.
And they're nice and bright. So just to save some time, if we flip this back, on the other side we've already done something.
That.
So you'll see, here we've got it marked out. In order for me to get this to look a bit more rustic and give it a bit more character, I used a wood stain.
Now, I want to ask you before you do this, is it better to stain the wood first before you do the markings, or doesn't it really matter?
Look, I find that it's easier to stain it first, let it dry for a couple of hours, and then go over with the permanent marker just to get a bit more of a clean line. Otherwise, it tends to bleed. The permanent marker tends to bleed into the wood, which gives it a bit of a fuzzy edge.
I guess there's really no biggie. It still looks good either way.
All I want to start doing is, you'll see I've already done it here, is to lightly start rubbing over it.
All right.
And that just kind of starts giving you a bit of texture and brings out the wood grain.
And now, of course, here you can go with whatever kind of wood stain colour that
There's
you would like.
so many different colours out there, and you can really choose or select a colour as dark as you like it or as light. Try not to go too dark, because otherwise you're going to struggle to see your lines and your markings.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we've got the numbers in front of us. And a great way to do it is you can either leave them white, which is a nice pop of colour, or I've spray painted mine black, just to go with the look and feel of the project. You'll see we're not going according to scale. This is purely for a decorative look. So I'm going to start with a 1, and you can either use wood glue, or if you're impatient like me, use super glue. It does anything and everything. It's so potent, you really don't need a lot. So I'm going to give that to you, and you can place it at the bottom of your first line.
Okay, so we're going to go here, basically.
Perfect, and you just space it slightly away from
the edge? From the
line.
Let me see, I'm going to look at there. Alrighty.
A nice way is to actually just start placing them out, so you kind of get an idea of where you want them.
So you can get a similar gap between all of them.
And because we're not working on scale, it's not a major problem if it's not exactly apart. But we'll place it out like that, and let's glue the second one.
Got to be careful not to get the stuff on your fingers, eh?
Yeah, good tip. If you do get it on your hands, wash it with salt. It seems to take it off your hands.
Salt?
Quite easily, yeah, and it's also like exfoliating, so you'll have nice soft hands.
Alrighty, well there you go. So you just continue that all throughout.
Continue with that, close this up, and then I'm just going to move this away.
Yeah.
You can have a look here. So at the end, this will be your project. It'll have a nice texture to it, it's already sealed, and you've got your numbers here, so ready to hang up. And you'll note here, I drilled a hole in the back, or at the top, which is perfect to put a piece of twine or rope through.
Yeah, it's like a nautical rope. It's actually quite nice.
And it also serves as a double function because I've decided to paint the back in a blackboard paint,
Hey.
which means it can be for shopping lists or anything that you want to write up with your chalk. And also
Look at
perfect
that.
to hang around in the kitchen or in the kids' bedroom for them to play around with.
Dual purpose. Absolutely love it. Dion, thank you so much, man. I think this is a great idea. Who knew? Back to school, DIY, decor ideas right here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show.